in its chokehold, however. And unbeknownst to me, many people in my life suspected and feared exactly what was happening.
Whoa. Do you even know who this is? It's KDZ, baby. Hit that subscribe button right now. Stay lit. Yeah.
What's good, DC Squad? It's your girl KDZ, baby, and I'm back again with another video for y'all. And in this video, I'm gonna be reacting to something very, very serious. Okay, this is Melissa Benoist'S story about domestic violence. I'm sorry if I butcher her last name. I hate pronouncing names wrong. But I know that she is Supergirl in the Supergirl show, and then she also plays Marley, I think that's her name, in Glee. So, you know, somebody requested this on Patreon. Make sure you guys go subscribe to my Patreon. I'll have a link in the description. I react to Glee episodes, and as well as other TV shows and movies on there. Only $6 a month. And, yeah, so somebody requested it, and I'm like, hey, I got you. I'm gonna start recording my screen. You see it over there. If you hear music, it's downstairs. My mama, I turned it down a little bit. She over there. She just jamming. You know what I'm saying? My mama's just straight jamming with the music. She doing the dishes, so don't mind that. But I really just want to listen to her story. I know that it was, I forgot his name. I forgot his name in the show. But I know it was the black guy's friend. This is a very serious topic, so let's go ahead and get into it. 1, 2, 3.
So I don't normally do things like this, but I've written something that I want to share, and I wanted it to stay my words and not have to edit it down for publishing, so I thought I'm going to read it out loud, and I'm quite nervous, so bear with me. I am a survivor of domestic violence, or IPV, intimate partner violence, which is something I never in my life expected I would say, let alone be broadcasting into the ether. He was a magnanimous person who didn't really give you a choice not to be drawn to him. He could be charming, funny, manipulative, devious. He was younger than me and his immaturity obvious, and for a period of time I wasn't interested. I was newly single and gaining my bearings in a period of change in my life, making dumb decisions. But in the midst of that, he became a friend that made me laugh and feel less alone, made me feel special and worthwhile. And then once we started dating, it was a 0 to 60 catapult. And I wasn't just a ragdoll letting myself be swept away into a relationship I didn't want, but I was unsure about what I was getting into from the get-go, as strange as that might sound. It's still hard for me to dissect what I was thinking and feeling that kept me from stopping what felt like a runaway freight train. But the most logical deduction I've come up with is I was a child from a nonviolent but broken home, and the ways in which the effects of my parents' divorce manifested in me were varied, but sheer terror of a failed relationship in my own life was one of them. I also hadn't figured out that I could say no and disappoint someone and still be okay. It didn't matter that I had misgivings whether or not he was the one. At the time, it felt very good how much he coveted me, how much he seemed to treasure who I was. He loved me. I thought I loved him, and I was going to make it work. The abuse was not violent at first. At first, it reared its head at me under the guise of common dysfunction coming from his insecurity and depression. He confided in me the tragedies he had experienced, the injustices and insecurities he had been dealt. It was all very real and easy to sympathize with, making it alarmingly easy to excuse when the damaged man that I felt for became too wounded to control himself. There was a lot of jealousy. He was snooping on devices. He was angry when I spoke to another man. I had to change clothes often before we went out because he didn't want people looking at me. On a birthday I spent working, I was criticized because I had to dance with a coworker. Work in general was a touchy subject. He didn't want me ever kissing or even having...
He was criticized because she had work to do. She had to... Wait, hold on. Let me listen to that one time.
To another man, I had to change clothes often before we went out because he didn't want people looking at me. On a birthday I spent working, I was criticized because I had to dance with a coworker.
Because she had to dance with a coworker. She was working, so it was, you know, some type of scene, I'm guessing, where she had to dance with a coworker. And she was criticized for that? Now, this dude definitely, like, that's insecurity at a different level. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. Like, it's the fact that he knew that she's a human being as well. You know what I'm saying? It's not just someone he can control, you know? And that's just, like, what's so sad about it, because although he was going through something, he was pulling her through it with him, you know? And instead of, you know, being honest and upfront and saying, you know what, I don't think we need to be together right now because I'm just not at the right state of mind. Instead of doing that, he just is, you know, controlling her, you know what I'm saying? And using his hands, I'm sure, fists and all that, and violence towards her to keep her on a leash. And that's, yeah.
Work in general was a touchy subject. He didn't want me ever kissing or even having flirtatious scenes with men, which was very hard for me to avoid. So I began turning down auditions, job offers, test deals, friendships, because I didn't want to hurt him.
Oh my gosh.
None of that.
Because she didn't want to hurt him? Oh gosh. So I'm guessing around this time still, it wasn't when he was being actually violent. You know what I'm saying? It was just the fact that he was using emotional abuse. It's a different type of word for it. It's a different word for that. He was just using abuse in a way. And that is so bad. Like, he was making her feel bad for him. That's abuse. That's definitely a type of abuse. We learned that in health class, and I'm just like, wow, like, that's crazy. Because she didn't want to hurt his feelings, she turned down money, her bag, you know what I'm saying, for him. Like, what?
It as abuse, because I was worried about how he felt at that point.
I'm gonna be pissed off.
To even comprehend how it affected me. In retrospect, I see that each red flag followed a very clear path on the way to things becoming violent, because violence is so often preceded by mental, emotional, verbal, and psychological abuse.
Okay, so yeah, it's called emotional, abuse.
It started about 5 months after our relationship began, and the violence escalated just as quickly as the relationship had. So quickly, I didn't know how to respond. The first time it happened, he threw a smoothie at my face. It smacked my cheek and exploded all over the floor and the sofa. I ran to grab paper towels, rushing back because I was so worried about cleaning the couch. Then the fact that it was all over my face, my hair, my clothes, and that my cheek was painfully throbbing. I was more worried about the furniture than I was about the fact that I had just been abused.
We gotta get through this. I know. I can't keep pausing it. But, bro, just thinking, knowing that it gets worse from here, like, I know it gets worse from here. The first thing is she gets a smoothie thrown at her face. Like, I would have, bro, I know what I would have wanted to do, you know what I'm saying, which is, seek help, you know what I'm saying, help, dip, my jet while he sleep or some crap, you know what I'm saying, I'm about to put him to sleep, go to dip, but yo, knowing how she felt, you know what I'm saying, towards him and stuff, you know, she didn't want to do that. She loved him, you know what I'm saying? So I know she didn't want to do that. And she was probably thinking, you know, giving him the benefit of the doubt because of how he was, you know what I'm saying? How he was feeling, the depression and all this stuff. And she felt like, you know what I'm saying, if she left, it was just going to hurt him more and make it worse for him. But she realized that it was going to get worse for herself as well. You know what I'm saying? That's why she's here making this story.
It wouldn't be easy to describe in detail the physical arguments that occurred more and more after that. It's hard to even articulate. Not just because of the anger and the pain that surfaces, but because the memories feel like they took place on a different planet where I was breathing different air and witnessing a macabre secret I could never tell anyone I had seen. It had to be secret, for shame, for fear of more attacks, for reluctance to actually admit any of it was happening. The stark truth is, I learned what it felt like to be pinned down and slapped repeatedly, punched so hard the wind was knocked out of me, dragged by my hair across pavement, head-butted, pinched till my skin broke, shoved into a...
Ooh, what? Damn. Head-butted? I don't know why that one gets me the most. It's just because, like... But all of this stuff is crazy. Dragged by your hair? This is like a constant fight with someone, and you're just getting beat down, and you're just getting weaker and weaker.
So hard, the drywall broke, choked. I learned to lock myself in rooms, but quickly stopped because the door was inevitably broken down. I learned not to value any of my property, replaceable and irreplaceable. I learned not to value myself. Most vividly, I remember how the arguments would usually end. There would always be a click of reality snapping back into place when he would see what he had done, and a wave of guilt would wash over him. I imagine in some subconscious effort to wash the both of us clean after what had just happened, he would carry me and put me in an empty bathtub, turn the faucet on, and leave me while he gathered himself, and I would sit in the tub. As the water inched up my body, surveying the damage. Insert the typical abuser's apology speech here. He'd kneel next to the tub crying self-hating tears with me. He never made me feel like he thought I deserved the beating, which I guess eased my mind. And in turn, I still held on to the sympathy and the empathy I felt for his brokenness he admitted to having. His apologies were heartfelt and effective in getting us back to sanity.
And that is why girls go back to these guys every single time. Because these guys, or these girls that are abusive, you know, either way, they're always apologizing, you know what I'm saying? And making these speeches and giving gifts and making it seem like what they did would never happen again. Then it happens again, and then it happens again and again and again, until eventually that person is probably dead, or that person is hating themselves, and it just becomes like a normal thing to where they just don't give a crap anymore. Like, this is so sad, and it's like, I would not wish this on my worst enemy, okay? This is next level. This is crazy.
And a semblance of a loving relationship. But deep down, I never believed he would change. I just fooled myself into believing I could help him.
That too.
I thought that I could love him enough to make him see a way of life where violence was not the way you handled emotions. So I consciously deluded myself into thinking that forgiveness would heal him enough to make it stop. Someone had to let him know that his behavior wasn't okay. Who better than the one he was taking it out on? So I'd pull down the drain in the bathtub, and down the pipes the argument would go, with its indecency, humiliation, sorrow, rage, and myself. I went down that drain every time he put me in the tub. My fortitude, my worth that he had begun to define, my blood, my multitude of tears. He once jokingly told my mother she cries enough water to end thirst in a third world country. Months and months.
To her mother? That's my question. That's what I want to know. Like, did she ever reach out to her mom, tell her mom anything? Did her mom, like, suspect things? I'm sure she suspected for sure. If she didn't tell. But, like, what kind of joke, bro? That's a sick joke. It really is. And I love how this is written, by the way. Like, I love how she's speaking this. I'm pretty sure she's reading off of something that I'm sure she wrote. But I'm loving the way that it's written. Like, it's so... Like, I could listen to this and just, like, you know, think and probably write myself. Like, this is well written.
This routine passed. And sometimes there wouldn't be a physical argument for a month or two, and I would distrustingly rejoice in the peace, thinking maybe it's actually different now. And things were different, but not for the better. I changed, and I'm not proud of how I changed. I became a person that I never could have imagined lurked inside of me because I was livid at what was happening and the fact that I was allowing it to out of fear of failure. I experienced firsthand that violence begets violence. I started fighting back because rage is contagious. I developed an astonishing poker face, but inwardly I was the ugliest version of myself I had ever known. I became unreliable, unprofessional, sometimes unreachable. There were stretches of weeks where I wouldn't get out of bed for more than 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
If you met me at this time, I was most likely friendly just to the point of getting too close, and aloof to the point of being cold. It was as if I split into spinning plates to maintain a false image versus the truth I was living. Another performance of sorts. Melissa in public put on a happy face and purported a healthy life, whereas Melissa at home dropped the veneer and lived a nightmare in the middle of one never-ending dispute, battle wounds and all. To my closest circle, I just plain lied. I made up stories of how bruises and scratches were born.
Alright, that answered my questions.
At work with my family, all to shield myself from my own burgeoning anger, protect myself from more arguments, and of course, to protect him. I knew how he was treating me was wrong, but I thought the consequences he would suffer if I exposed his behavior outweighed suffering through it. And then he threw something at my face again, only this time it was significantly worse. It was a blow to my face with his iPhone. The impact tore my eye.
Oh, no. Tore her what?
Nearly ruptured my eyeball.
Oh my gosh. So it hit her on her eye. Ooh. Painful, bro. Painful.
Serrated my skin and broke my nose. My left eye swelled shut. I had a fat lip. Blood was coursing down my face, and I can remember immediately screaming at the top of my lungs. The next morning, I was due to work on reshoots for a film. After it happened, complete stillness blanketed the room. We panicked. He put me in the bath time, but this time that wouldn't be enough. This wasn't going to be easy to hide, let alone fix, and something inside of me broke. This was too far. I couldn't flush this one down with the tug of the drain.
I
We
bet.
made up a flimsy story together. I had tripped and fallen on the stairs of our deck and hit my face on a potted plant. We called our mothers, all of our representatives, all of my representatives, who then had to call producers and directors I was working with. He drove me to the hospital. And when the ER doctors made him leave the room and cops came to question me at my hospital bed, I told them our transparent story that I'm sure they'd heard versions of before. And then we laughed together when he said my face was cute and looked like Squirt from Finding Nemo because my eye had become bulbous. This is an injury that's never going to fully heal. My vision is never going to be the same. And emotionally after that, I was done. I keenly felt that whatever I thought love was, it certainly wasn't what I had been going through. I was so tired of living the way I'd been living, but it felt too late to get out. Would it be safe for me to leave? I had ostracized myself so completely in my life that I made myself believe I had no one to turn to if I did leave him. And I was ashamed. But abuse doesn't just affect the people that are in its chokehold, however. And unbeknownst to me, many people in my life suspected and feared exactly what was happening. A friend visited me where I was working. My abuser wasn't there, so she had a rare opportunity to talk to me without his looming presence. She sat me down and said she wanted to talk about something important, and I immediately knew where it was going. My heart pounded. She was nervous, shaking, afraid that it would ruin our relationship, but she bravely asked me if I was a victim of domestic violence. It was the first moment I spoke about the abuse to anyone, and I can't describe the amount of relief and solace I felt. She held me and she said, "You know what you have to do now, don't you?"
That is a great friend. Got me over here crying like, oh my gosh, bro, this stuff is so serious and it's so sad to me because like everyone wants love, like true love. Everyone wants to feel it. Everyone wants it like so bad. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody deserves true, genuine love. And the fact that Melissa, like right after, I don't know how she is now, but I know that she felt at some point in time that love was not a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not something you can get and it be what you expect, you know? That's a great friend. I'm glad that. See, that's why I really try to check on my friends, you know what I'm saying? This is why you should check on your friends, people you love, people you're close to, because you never know, man. You never know. And it's really tough. It's just, even if you really try to tell them, hey, you should leave, you know, you shouldn't take this anymore. No matter how much you try to say that, some of them won't listen, but you got to do everything you can to help them, you know? It's so sad.
Here's the irony about enduring an ordeal like a violent relationship. Inevitably, while terrible and irreparable damage is done to you, you build an impenetrable strength without realizing it. Finally, uttering the words that I had muted for so long inflamed that power in me. I had to get out, and I took careful steps to leave him as quickly as our relationship had sped into my life. Leaving was not a walk in the park. It is not an event, it's a process.
I love the figurative language.
I felt complicated feelings of guilt for leaving and for hurting someone I had protected for so long, and yes, mournful feelings of leaving something that was so familiar. But luckily, the people I let in, the more I was bolstered, and I never lost the sense of clarity that kept telling me, you do not deserve this. None of this is salacious news. It was my reality. What I went through caused a tectonic shift in my outlook on life. It taught me what love is and isn't, the strength I'm capable of. The violence I endured and yes, even tolerated, the lies I told, the protection I gave my abuser, these facets all paint the dark and sinister portrait of that time of my life. But recusing those habits and breaking that cycle was the most rewarding, empowering choice I have ever made for myself. I feel an enduring strength and self-assurance that has dug its roots deep within me. I will be healing from this for the rest of my life.
Oh, for sure.
And that's okay. And I've discovered that healing is a constant maneuvering and fidgeting to find what works and what triggers, but it is possible. Sadly, IPV is one of the most chronically underreported crimes in the country, according to the US DOJ. It's estimated that 1 in 4 women in the US ages 18 and older will experience severe physical violence by an intimate partner in their lifetime. And while it affects men as well, numbers clearly show that it is a more prevalent women's issue, and it's wildly intersectional in its reach. I want those statistics to change, and I hope that telling my story might help prevent more stories like mine from happening. I choose to love. I don't choose to minimize my life out of fear. I choose to love myself, to know that love does not include violence, and to let victims know that there is a way out in which you will be protected. If you are enduring what I went through and you see this, maybe you will find this tiny straw that will break the camel's back. Or at least you might begin to think of your freedom, in which case I am here. I am with you. And you can and deserve to live a violence-free life.
This was crazy. 1 in 4 women in the U.S. go through domestic violence, 18 and older. Like, man, that makes me so sad, yo. It really does. I know that I won't have to go through that, you know, through an intimate relationship. Well, I don't know that, but the way things are going and who I know I'm meant to be with, you know, if things go out the way I think they will, then I'm not going to have to go through that. And I will never, ever treat a girl that way either, you know what I'm saying? Like, I could never. That is so sad, yo. This story is something that definitely needs to be heard, you know what I'm saying? This is so sad. You guys, if you guys ever go through stuff like this, DM me, you know what I'm saying? My Insta is in my intro and just in my outro. Well, it's not an outro. It's in my intro. If you need to DM me, we can talk about it, you know what I'm saying? I can help you throughout your way, but I need you to get out of that situation. I need you to get help. You know what I'm saying? And I, speaking future references, do not ever let someone control you like that. You know what I'm saying? And it's you love that person. You may love that person at that time, and you may not want to hurt them, but sometimes you need to put yourself first. You know what I'm saying? And you need to understand that down the road it's gonna look worse than at that time. Bro, thank you guys for watching with me. Thank y'all for sending this in. I really appreciate it. I love this video. I love listening to her story, and I loved the way she spoke, and I'm so glad that she put this out there for everyone to see. Yeah, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell so you know when I post videos like this. If you have any other videos you want me to see that are kind of like this, put them down in the comments. And yeah, if you do subscribe and if you do hit the bell, you'll see me in the next video. Stay lit, y'all.